somewhere. You had a trailer out there, you had trucks.
I see.
The pictures are live. Yeah. It's still. But they get out there.
Everyone would please rise and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening. I'd like to mention a few items before we start. Please silence your cell phones. Our meetings are public and recorded. This is a business meeting, so we ask everyone to conduct themselves in a professional manner. Our city code allows for public comment up to 3 minutes, and for best sound quality, please lean into these microphones when you speak. We have a number of folks here this evening, and some have traveled a great distance to come be with us this evening, so we are going to shift and do Public Works Committee first, and then we'll return to our normal rotation. So with that, we will kick off the Public Works Committee this evening.
Okay, I'll call Public Works at 6:02 with myself, Dojan, Hanamut, Schwarzkopf, and Reinecker are all present. Under old business, power plant report.
The new catalysts for generator 1 have been installed. The Rice and ESHAP testing is scheduled for Monday, June 24th, 12:30 to 4 o'clock to requalify. In conjunction with that, we're also doing our urge testing for IMEA at that time as well. So, and then our other urge testing, the rest of the units, urge testing will be scheduled for July 9th.
Okay. Next item is utility and streets, electric. We have IMEA contract extension consideration, so we have some representatives here to talk about that.
Yeah, we have Kevin Gaden, CEO of IMEA, Mike Jenin, and Sean McCarthy are also with him as well.
Appreciate that. We know you have a full schedule tonight, so we've got a number of things to go through, but we'll try to be as brief as possible. We'll start with Mike Jenin. We'll lead things off. Sean McCarthy. Mike Jenin is our Vice President of Member Services. Sean McCarthy is our Manager of Electric Operations. He's the guy that's doing the urge test with Josh. I'm the President and CEO, and I'll wrap things up and answer any questions as we go along. So go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, everybody, for having us. I'm going to be referring to the handouts here. If you go to the first page with the map, we're kind of going our background. We started because back in like the 1970s, towns in the 1950s, they were being approached by investor-owned utilities that were building big baseload power plants, coal plants, like the one at Baldwin. And they would come into the town and they would say, hey, we built this power plant. We'll cut your rates if you sell out to us. And so they get a big check, and then they get the rates to go down because the towns had diesel generators, small coal units, different things like that. Well, as time went on, the big investor-owned utilities started investing in nuclear power plants, and they had big overruns. So the Clinton nuclear station was supposed to be $400 million. By the time it was done, it was $4 billion. And they were trying to pass those on to their customers that had sold out and didn't keep their utilities and were in bad shape. The Commerce Commission finally said, hey, no more, we can't pass this on anymore. So they came to the cities who were buying from them. And a lot of the cities, like yourself, had, when the Arab oil embargo started, diesel fuel went through the roof, coal prices, the EPA went up. So they were closing down their little power plants like the one that you guys operate here, and they were buying from the investor-owned utilities. Well, they finally came and said, basically, here's the deal, we're gonna double your price, and there's nothing they could do about it, because they're small towns, can't afford attorneys, experts, different things like that. So the towns went, the municipals on the sheet, and about 8 others went to the state legislature and got permission to do what they call a joint action agency, like the IMEA. So that basically allowed you to bind together, issue long-term tax-exempt municipal bonds, do long-term contracts past the term of the mayor, different things like that. We've been in business, started in 1984. As you can see, we serve tip to tip for the state. We got Winnetka, one of the richest towns, Cairo, one of the poorest, got a couple around the Metro East area. I grew up in Belleville, we sold out a long time ago. If you move to the next page, basically, since we're designed by you, we're municipals made us, so we basically have municipal representation, and we run like a city council. So you basically have an elected president, and each town puts one board, and you vote on our board member, and you vote on our policies. So you got a seat at the table, and because you set us up, you didn't want us to be like a power market or investor-owned utilities, you wanted services that are included. So we do energy efficiency funds, we do economic development incentive rates. In your town, when you had the foundry that was having some issues with pricing, we sat with Louis DeWald and helped develop an off-peak rate that worked for them for several years. We do quite a bit that you can't get done, through the investor-owned utilities. And we also negotiate transmission rates. We work with the co-op on your feed, different things like that. And then we bind together the city power plants, and we give capacity credits, which are, very lucrative for the towns. With that, we're going to be talking to you about our IMEA contract. It's basically, Kevin's going to go over, but it's basically the same as the current contract. We're in great shape right now. We're one of the best financially fit electric utility entities in the state right now. And in 2035, all things being the same, and all things aren't going to be the same because we have inflation and transmission rates are going up. Our cost structure is 25% of it is paying for bonds, and those bonds will be gone in 2035 when the current contract ends. So we think we're in really good shape, and we're going to have Sean and Kevin talk to you a little bit more about it. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. I'm Sean McCarthy. As Kevin said, the manager of electric operations, and I wanted to talk to you just for a minute, remind you kind of what your power supply looks like now, the resources that come to you, and kind of set the table for the discussion about really why we're here talking about extending our contract. So I'm starting on 8 here if you were tracking along, but really we've got kind of 3 main principles that we look at when we're trying to decide on power supply resources, and they're all kind of equally as important. So we look at affordability, reliability, and sustainability. And so when we talk about affordability, that one's pretty simple. It's trying to keep the rate as low as possible to you so that you can do the same thing for your utility customers. And I'll talk about this one on the next slide, but our power supply cost is actually lower today than it was 10 years ago. And so that's something that we're pretty proud of. Reliability, your utility staff here does a really great job on your distribution system, but when we think of reliability, we're talking about everything that it takes to get it from where it's generated to your city gate. And our 24/7 operations center does a really good job to provide support to your local crews, giving quick diagnosis on outages, being the go-between between the investor-owned utilities and your staff to make sure that if the problem is outside your city gate, that's getting taken care of as quickly as possible. And for sustainability, we're looking for the transition that's happening, on generation resources kind of at a full utility scale level. We're looking to do that as well and as quickly as we can, but also in a responsible way that doesn't jeopardize kind of the other 2 pillars. So something that doesn't jeopardize the affordability piece or the reliability piece. And again, residents in your town have a direct voice by being able to come to you and voice their concerns, and then those come back to us through the form of Josh and our other IMEA board members. So On the next one is this blue, red and blue chart. Some of you may have seen this in the past, but this is something that we're pretty proud of. This is our actual power supply cost to you year over year, and then with some projected years into the future here. And you can see that each of those bars for each of those years is broken into two colors, the red section and the blue section. The blue is our actual power supply cost. That's the piece that we have direct control over through our operations. The red piece represents transmission cost, which is kind of the toll we pay to go over the interstate highway that is the investor-owned utility lines that bring it across. And as much as we'd like to have more control over that, that's kind of a pass-through cost. So no matter who your power supplier is, you'd be paying that one way or the other. We do have some avenues that we are looking to try and use to leverage to try and bring those costs down, because as you can see, as you move across that graph over the last 10 years and beyond, that red portion of the bar gets significantly larger. And so I can imagine as you move through this power transition, and we have a lot, we used to have a lot of big centralized power plants, and we're moving to more distributed, smaller individual plants. That's a whole lot more transmission lines that have to be crisscrossing to get that power where it needs to go. There's a lot of investment by those utilities, and that's driving that piece of the cost up. And so we are constantly looking at ways that we can try to minimize that portion, but the part that we're very proud of is the blue bar section that we have direct control over. And the black line that runs across the top of all of those is just the benchmark for 2014, that first year. And you can see that blue line, other than 2021, which was, as a result of COVID, we were elevating our costs a little bit that year. But every other year on that graph, that blue line is lower than it was in that 2014. So our power supply cost is something that not only has been very affordable to you over these last 10 years, but our projections, because of the way our agency is built, is designed to not really see that change. As we continue to go, again, we're going to try to combat the transmission increases as much as we can, but our power supply cost to you is projected to stay very flat and level as we move through. So, the next one is just some headlines from over the last couple of years, and it's what you've seen from some of the investor-owned utilities who don't have the long-term resources and commitments that we have, and have, as a result, in the power market, as part of this transition, seen a lot of rate increase, a lot of instability, a lot of volatility. And again, that's one of the things that we're proud to say is that when these things happen in the general market, not only do they usually not flow through to you, in terms of the overall power cost, but actually that's some of the things that keep that blue bar low for us on those rate charts, because we own resources. At the time that the market's volatile and prices spike, we're able to take extra power that we're not using at the moment to serve you and the other towns that we serve and sell it into that elevated market. And because our agency is a not-for-profit agency, all of that comes back to you in the form of lower rates. So actually, the way we're set up, sometimes when the market's very volatile, it's beneficial to you and your ratepayers. This is my last slide right here. It's just kind of a quick rundown of some of the resources that we have that are, parts of the portfolio that bring the power to you every day. So we are continuing to invest and grow the portion of our portfolio that's solar. The Big River Solar Farm is a solar farm that we start to take power of next year, and that's 25 megawatts. And not only that, but Kevin, he'll talk a little bit about this, but we're actually looking at adding a significantly larger piece of solar in the next couple of years. We also have 6 smaller solar installations that are inside of our member communities, and we may be looking to do a few more of those in the near future as well. 2 major wind projects that total 120 megawatts in the northwestern part of the state. We have 2 coal-fired power plants, the Prairie State Generating Company that's down here in southern Illinois, and then 1 in Trimble County, Kentucky that is outside of Louisville, Kentucky. We have hydro plants in 2 of our member communities that provide a piece of the power, and then anything that those resources don't cover, we cover through long-term contracts, power purchase agreements from vendors that have resources available. So that's kind of your recap on that. I'm going to turn it over to Kevin, and he's going to basically try to answer the question of why we're here now to talk to you about extending our agreement. Thanks.
Thanks, Sean. Again, my name is Kevin Gaden. I'm the president and CEO of IMEA. I've been with IMEA for about 12 and a half years. I've been in the power supply business for about 38 years. And so one of the things we want to start talking a little bit about is this diagram here. We refer to it as our snake diagram. It looks like a little bit of a snake. The sustainability that we continue to work on, actually in order to craft our sustainability plan, our chairman of that sustainability group was Josh Eckert. So he's done a great job for us in that regard. So you can see the very top line of that snake diagram shows all the things that IMEA has done to begin this transition. We've been in the wind business for 15 years before being in the wind business was cool. And so this is something that that's been online, again, for about 15 years. But as you go down the line there, you can also see that contract for that supply ends in 2030. You also go along that list of all the solar projects that we've talked about. 2019, we got involved in our Green River project. That one ends in 2035. As you go down that first row, and then that middle row is kind of where we're at right now. We adopted our net zero goal plan by 2050 to be net zero. That's pretty much what the state's goals are. It's pretty national goals from what you see for most of the utilities. Sean alluded to the 2025-26 timeframe. We're looking to be able to acquire somewhere around 130 megawatts. Actually, we're going to be talking with our board next week about potentially adding as many as 150 megawatts of new solar to our resource mix and still try to hold that price down and ensure that reliability. A good share of that reliability comes from our baseload coal-fired power plants right now. As you all know, the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act that was passed in 2021 mandates that those generators, basically 45% of that generation has to be removed by 2038. The rest of it needs to be shut down by 2045. As part of that includes the Prairie State Generating Complex. The other plant that's involved in that is the Dolman 4 complex, which has got the picture of Abe Lincoln up on the interstate, on Interstate 55. Those will be the only coal plants that will be left at that point in time. And so as you go down to the bottom, you see that in 2030, we'll need to be replacing our Lead to Cal project. 2035 is our Green River project as well. And so while some people think that being able to develop a resource just takes a couple of years to get done, generally what you see is for a solar or wind project, it will take as many as 8 to 10 years. If you think about how long it took to develop the Prairie State Generating Complex, that's well in the 10 to 12 years time frame. In most cases, in order to get through the transmission, sometimes you read these things in the paper about the transmission planning queue. It takes 5 or 6 years just to be able to figure out how much it would cost you to interconnect that system to the grid. So there's lots of work to do right now. There continues to be lots of work to do over the next 10 to 15 years. And really what we're trying to do is we're looking at the long term. A lot of folks are out there playing on the spot market, doing a year deal or a 3-year deal or a 4-year deal. We're looking at the long term to be able to do that. That's how that blue line on that chart continues to stay flat, because we've been able to do that for the long period of time to be able to help our members to plan for those contingencies. So again, the question is, well, why now? Well, again, we need resources now. So again, as next week we'll be talking with our board about getting into that solar project moving forward. We have 3 additional, what we call behind the meter solar projects underway right now in Princeton, Marshall, and Oglesby. We've got 6 of those on board already, and we will continue that transition to ensure that we maintain those 3 stool legs of affordability, reliability, and sustainability. And so one of the things that we continue to do is look at longer term deals. When you buy things in the short term, you might get a short term deal. A lot of times you see these municipal aggregation deals. For a long time, people were getting these really good deals, and then all of a sudden, if they went to the market at the absolute wrong time, they saw their prices go up 50, 60%. June of 2022, if you were served by an Ameren customer, again, I'm not here to talk about Ameren, but if you're served as an Ameren customer at retail, in that period of time, you saw your total bill go up by about 50 to 60% on one day, starting in June of 2022. It's been very volatile since then, and as we continue to see, the capacity prices and the energy prices will continue to stay volatile. So what we're needing to do is acquire those resources now as we plan for that next generation, as well as knowing exactly how many people are going to be there in the long term. So as you can see on slide number 15, we've got that current contract date expires. We'll be needing to replace those 2 wind farms and that solar farm we just talked about. In addition to that 130 will be closer to likely 150 megawatts. We'll get that done sometime in the 2026-27 timeframe. And as I mentioned before, 45% of the output from Prairie State will have to be reduced by partway through 2038. So we'll need to be making those transactions as time goes on. So one of the things that, as we look at this, If we were to go out and procure, whether it's wind or solar, some other resource to be able to meet your needs for the long term, because we only have 11 years left on that contract, it's like saying, let's go out and get ourselves an 11-year mortgage. Well, that's gonna be a pretty high mortgage when you start to take a look at what that's gonna cost. And so generally what we're seeing is the prices are gonna be much better in the 20 to 25-year time frame as you move forward. And the next chart kind of gives you indicative prices of what you might see for 100 megawatts of utility-grade solar. Again, as we talked about, that contract ends in September of 2035. That would limit us basically to a 10-year agreement, even if they can get that project done in that type of time frame. There are very few projects that are out there that are available to come online in the very near future. As I said before, many of them are waiting in this transmission line, waiting to get done. Some indicative prices that we've seen, and we've talked to some of these vendors about, is if you did a 20-year purchase power agreement, PPA purchase power agreement, it's about $65 a megawatt hour, about 6.5 cents a kilowatt hour, just a factor off by 1,000. So 6.5 cents a kilowatt hour for a 20-year deal. But if you want to compress that all back down into the 10-year deal, instead of $65 a megawatt hour, it's $95 a megawatt hour. So that might not seem like a big difference here, but when you talk about the scale of the size of those 100 megawatts, that ends up being $64 million over a 10-year period. It's an extra $6.4 million for our communities on an annualized basis to be able to do that. Redbud's about 1% of our load. Can't see that it makes a lot of sense for Redbud to spend an extra $64,000 based on the quality of the utilities that you all have served your customers for over 100 years. I would imagine that the city of Redbud's going to be in the energy business in 2036 and 2046 and 2056 to be able to continue to serve your members on a high quality basis as you've done for all these many years. You look on the right-hand side, the difference between that red line and that green line doesn't look that big. It's $64 million over that period of time. I'd also point your attention to that sharp ski hill on the right-hand side of that. That's the drop in the projected rate of the IMEA cost when we pay our bonds off. It's just like at your house. Once you paid that mortgage off, as my kids say all the time, living in this house wouldn't be all that expensive if we didn't have to pay that damn mortgage. And so in this case, what we see is, and so we've been doing these city council meetings for a number of months now, and we hear people say, what makes me think that you're going to be able to drop your power supply cost by 25% in 2035? And the answer is just this easy. This year, our debt service, or our mortgage payments for our power plants, was about $89 million. That's what our debt service obligations are on an annualized basis, $89 million. Our budget this year was $355 million. Well, if you start thinking about, you have a household budget of $355 million, and you're allowed to drop that $89 million, and you don't have those payments anymore, you drop that now down to the $265 million, that's about a 25% share of your cost. One of the questions we've got in the past is, so do we believe that IMEA will never be borrowing money ever again? Never say never, okay? But at this point, based upon the way the tax code works, it's actually cost advantageous because the tax credits go to those profit-seeking companies to be able to do that. Those tax credits that you saw in the Inflation Reduction Act and the Infrastructure Act that just got passed a couple of years ago, there's pretty large subsidies to those people that develop those projects. We continue to work with our public power brethren across the country to be able to get the Internal Revenue Service to allow us to be able to get those things. A couple of years ago, we had Congress pass something that looked like they were going to do that. If you happen to have any friends in the U.S. Treasury that we could talk to about convincing them to not make it so darn difficult to be able to, for nonprofit utilities to be able to enjoy those benefits. It's been going on for over 2 years now, and they still haven't come out with a procedure on that. They sure know how to take care of the taxes, but they sure don't know how to take care of the actual implementation of some of the tax code laws that the Congress has passed. So from a contract detail standpoint, if you've taken a look at our contract, I know Josh and your city attorney have looked at it, your contract form looks a lot like the existing form of his existing agreement. It's not prescriptive of what types of power plants we're going to have. It's not prescriptive of the rates. It's not prescriptive of the services we're going to provide. The IMEA is really a partnership of 32 cities to be able to move forward, the board evaluates what things they want to do, what resources they want to get involved in, what services they want to provide for themselves, and have a professional staff to be able to do that. We have a total staff of 32 people in Springfield that carry these things out. For every $100 of bills we send out to our membership, $2.80 is what gets charged back to our customers. 2.8% of the entire cost of our utility is what it takes for the staff, the building, the vehicles, the insurance. You all are members of the American Public Power Association. We actually pay that through our power bills. There's a number of things we do to comply with FERC and NERC, and I won't get into all those details tonight. Happy to talk about that. May have to have a couple of cocktails to discuss that in more detail, but we won't get into that tonight. So the way we charge the rates and charges back to our customers, if you've ever taken a look at the IMEA power bill on the very back page, it's a laundry list of all the charges based on demand, energy, and transmission. All those charges go into the sausage grinder, if you will, and then they come out and there's a calculation which ends up what's on the power bill. You pay your pro rata share of whatever the load is that month. If somebody's peak demand went way higher that month and yours was held down that month because you had a mild weather situation, you pay smaller amount than they do on an annualized basis. Again, as I mentioned, the debt is paid in 2035. We'll see that precipitous drop in our power supply cost at that point in time. But again, I would also mention that, as Mike alluded to, we quickly went through that. There was a chart very early in there that had a number of the list of the services that IMEA has provided to our members on a regular basis, including energy efficiency program that we give out, that we give incentives for rebates for whether it's lighting, whether it's cooling, whatever the case might be, that's a benefit to your customers. A whole slew of value-added services that are all part of that rate that makes what we provide to you something that's very customized for the nonprofit municipal utilities in this state. There are 42 municipal utilities in this state. 32 of you all buy from the IMEA and your partners in the IMEA. We're very proud to be able to serve you in that period of time. So as you know, your contract with us currently ends at the end of September of 2035. The contract that we have in front of you would last from October 1st of 2035 until May of 2055. You might ask, why May instead of October again? The regional transmission organizations that we're belonging in, every contract, their planning year starts on June 1st. And if you start or stop a contract in the middle of one of their contract years, it's a pain in the neck to try to deal with it, because you gotta cover it when you're leaving, and you gotta cover it when you didn't need it before you start. So that's a 20-year time frame, and really what we're trying to do here is go out and acquire those generation resources for the next 20 years so that you're ready to go when those resources are coming offline. Those things last 20 years, and then the next generation can worry about the generation for the next generation of your community moving forward. Josh will still be here, I won't be here, Mayor Horvath may still be here, but I'll leave it to her to make that decision later. One of the things that we've done in our contract that we've allowed our members to do is, if members want to on their own develop some smaller renewable projects, maybe you want to do a wind turbine or something, or maybe you want to do a solar project out on the edge of town that would be something that would be independent for you. What that does, and we, as you can imagine, we have very few people that are at this point in time that are interested in doing that, because candidly, most people say, well, hell, I thought that's why we hired you guys, is to cover that stuff for us. But if you decided you wanted to do that, what you could do is up to 10% of your peak demand, you then could put that system in on your own, just like whether it's Waterloo or Naperville or Breeze or Highland or any of the other members, those costs then would be theirs to recover for themselves, and the risk of whether it costs more than they're getting, whether the benefits they get are better than the cost that they put out. And so, for example, last year, they might have made a little bit of money. This year, probably close. In other years, it would actually be to the detriment of your cost by making that local decision. That's something that you could decide if you wanted to do that. But again, it's something you don't have to do. It's something that's your option if you'd like to be able to do that. And as you can see on the list there, the energy produced by that resource, we will pay you for whatever the capacity value is, whatever the energy value is, exactly the same amount compensation that the IMEA would get from those regional transmission organizations. We basically sell it into a bigger pool beyond Ameren, Illinois. It's called MISO, Mid-Continent Independent System Operator. If you want to get into that, you can't sleep at night, go to misoenergy.com. I'm sure you'll learn all you want to know about the regional transmission organizations. You got to be a geek like Josh and I to be able to like stuff like that. And these two geeks back here, by the way. So it's something that if you decided you wanted to do on a local basis, that's something you could do as well. The other contract that we have in front of you is we have been leasing the output of your member generation plant. We have 19 of our cities that own and operate local municipal power plants, just like you all in Waterloo does. There's quite a few of you here in the East Metro area that do that. We would continue to honor those lease agreements that we buy the output from you. It only gets dispatched, number one, when it's really hot or really cold. We haven't called Josh yet this week, but hang on to your coat, because we might call him yet this week if there's a system emergency. If the prices go really high, I can assure you that on the 2 days before Christmas of 2022, we ran the heck out of you guys and all of our members. 2 days before Christmas, the day before Christmas, in fact, Christmas Eve morning, we had a number of our generators starting at 5 o'clock in the morning, and so I had to say, well, Merry Christmas, folks, but this is what happens when they start naming storms. That's when Weather Channel starts to name storms. That's likely when your member power plant's going to be running on a regular basis. One of the things in that new capacity purchase agreement that we've put in there is that we would, no later than 2035, we will guarantee that the lowest you will get paid for that capacity payment is $3.20 per kilowatt month. And so as you can see on the right, so that's the equivalent of $105 per megawatt day. I'm an old utility person. We used to do it in dollars per kilowatt month. That's what you usually see when you're on your electric charges. The RTOs had to change that. They had to change that calculation to dollars per megawatt per day. Kind of a goofy way to do that. But as you see on the right-hand side, the blue and the red line is what we see in the ComEd area up north. The red line is what ComEd charged internally. Blue line is what the rest of the RTO further east called PJM, Pennsylvania, Jersey, Maryland. The blue line is the capacity compensation that we've seen in this region. And so you can see why the Vistra generating plants, if they got paid $5 per megawatt day to keep that generator open for all those years, you can understand why they weren't all that interested in staying in the power supply business. If you think about $5 per megawatt day, let's just say you got a super Walmart that you're taking a look at, that's about a megawatt of load. $5 per megawatt day is the equivalent of $1,800 per year in demand charge, $150 a month. They can't even pay the guy to put the smiley faces on the people in the front door at Walmart to be able to do that. That was a false signal for what the value of capacity is. Then you see then 2022, it went from $5 a megawatt day to $237 per megawatt day. Now that changes people's minds pretty quickly. That's part of what we saw with those spot market prices going up very volatile. We've seen them come right back down. What we're seeing in the marketplace going forward is you should not expect it to stay at $5 per megawatt day. The offers that we're starting to see back and forth buying and selling push it well up above that green line, above that $105 per megawatt day. You should really expect to see more volatility in the energy space moving forward, because as the loads continue to grow, we see these data centers and the AI continue to come in, the electrification, everything, electric vehicles, and how hard it is to site and develop new power plants to ensure our reliability. I will tell you that, for example, the Prairie State Generating Complex over there has been running in between 85 and 90% availability full out for many, many years. They've done a wonderful job of being very reliable, and the employees over there do a great job of being very responsive. In fact, we had an outage on Unit 1 for a couple of days. Just came back on Sunday, ready to go for the peak time of this month and this year. And so we're guaranteeing that capacity compensation will be no less than $3.20. In fact, at our board meeting next week, we're going to be presenting to our board about looking to increase the production compensation from $1.20 and move that to 220 over a 5-year period. That benefit will benefit not only Redbud, but the other, we have 19 of our members that do that, so 19 of our members would be seeing an increase in those capacity payments moving forward to be able to do that. Right now, we're compensating you about $167,000 per year to maintain that power plant over there. So with that, why IMEA? IMEA has been serving you for the last 13 years, since 2011. We made some commitments that we were going to be able to provide you with reliable, affordable power supply. We've done all those things, and we've grown our renewable resource mix more than the rest of the utilities in this state. The IMEA has a total of about 11% of our energy is produced right now by renewable energy. That doesn't sound like a lot, but at the same time, in 2008, we had zero. The state of Illinois has spent hundreds of millions of dollars through their programs, so for the Future Energy Jobs Act from 2017 and the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act from 2021, hundreds of millions of dollars of the investor-owned ratepayers' money to be able to do that. And they're at 6.8% this year. They have a goal of being 40% by 2030. I don't think that's going to be likely to happen, but at the same time, in order for them to do that, it's going to take even more money for that to happen. So we have made promises that we were going to be reliable and affordable. We feel like we've done those things. We will continue to offer low-cost, reliable, and sustainable power for the city of Redbud. We will continue to offer value-added services that are tailor-made for the municipal utilities. If Congress or something else comes up that says the states have got to do something or the municipal utilities have got to do something, you can rest assured that IMA is going to be figuring something out, because we got 32 cities that we serve power supply to and another 10 cities that we work for that are also in the municipal utility business. They're going to need something very similar to there. You have a very good voice in the IMA board, with Josh being there. He's done a great job on your behalf, and very actively involved in that decision-making process. We share your long-term obligations to serve your customers. We've been here, we just celebrated our 40th anniversary. We're expecting to be here for another 30 years to be able to serve the municipal utilities. We're here on a nonprofit basis. We're here for your Main Street and not Wall Street. I will tell you that over the last couple of months, we put this contract out on the street on March 1st. At our April board meeting, we approved 10 of those 32 contracts unanimously. Our board approved those contracts. So 10 of them are already been approved by the IMA board. Next Thursday, we'll have at the IMA board meeting, another 10 have already signed. In fact, Waterloo is going to be one of those that's going to be on the contract docket the agenda docket for next Thursday to be able to approve that. Most of the folks in the neighborhood have already signed those contracts. I know you've had a number of things, and you've got a number of other things that you're looking at with regard to your public works and other utility operations. So we're very proud of what we've done with Redbud, and we look forward to working with you in the long term, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
Anybody have any other questions, comments, Josh?
No, like I said, the only thing I would say is currently for them capacity credits, we're getting paid at $1.20. So, our monthly is 14,000 something. So you can just figure what our capacity credits would do by raising that value for there on the generation side.
My guess is Josh is going to vote yes when it comes to whether or not we're going to increase those. What we plan to do is over the next 5 years is add 20 cents per kilowatt month each of those years to get us from 120 to 220. And then in addition to the 220, what we'd start doing is adding a base component to those of you that came in late. What it used to be was, when you saw that $5 per megawatt day, to translate that back to dollars per kilowatt month, that's 9 cents per kilowatt month. And at 9 cents per kilowatt month, the way we look at that is, we recognize full well that if we were to pay you 9 cents a kilowatt month to maintain that generator, it ain't gonna be maintained for very long before something happens where you say, we're kind of done spending money on this thing because we're not getting it back out of there. And so that's why we try to keep those numbers constant. And as that capacity gets more and more valuable to be able to put the money back into that, we will continue to, but again, it's a balancing act. We got 19 of our members have power plants, 13 that don't. So I happen to live in Chatham that doesn't have a power plant. And so the benefits of having that power plant there, when the storm rolls through, the lights come back on here. And in fact, many of your customers didn't even recognize there was an outage if the tie line went down. Now, again, if you got trees in the lines and all those other things, these folks are gonna take care of it first at the local level. Once all the lines are cleared here in town, then they start the power plant, and they've done a great job of continuing to do that for you.
I guess it all came in like a flood, so. So there's round numbers, 550 megawatt is what you're produced now. You're losing 145. Out of that 405, what's left in coal that will be gone then in 2045? Will it be all 405?
In 2045, Prairie State, as of right now, Prairie State will need to be shut down. There are provisions in that law that says if the regional operator deems that it needs to stay there for liability purposes, that it can and will stay there. We'll have to see what happens over the next 15 or 20 years to be able to do that. We're also involved in our Trimble County project.
Right.
Trimble County is about a 1,200 megawatt facility. We own 12% of that output, roughly 150 megawatts of that. That's located in the state of Kentucky, right along the Ohio River, just south of Madison, Indiana, if you're familiar with that quaint little town there on the Ohio River. That one is not subject to the state Climate and Equitable Jobs Act. That will stay there. Right now, Unit 1 is scheduled to come off in 2045. Unit 2 is tentatively scheduled to come off in 2050, which will help us be able to meet that 2050 timeframe. But at the same time, I guess what I'd say is we'll just see what happens here when it comes to the system reliability. We're going to need some significant advances in technologies to be able to do those things. Right now, you've heard all the time that the wind doesn't blow all the time, the sun doesn't shine all the time. The battery technology, you saw in that snake diagram, we were looking at doing a battery study. Right now, the cost effectiveness of batteries is not there, and quite frankly, the world is still deciding on what technology is really going to make sense. So any given time you see it, somebody finds some new technology that they fall in love with, and then they figure out that, well, we don't have all the raw materials to be able to do that yet. So I guess the short answer, I gave you a long answer to it. The short answer is about 150 megawatts will still be there up until about 2045. About 95 of those megawatts will be there until 2050. We'll continue to transition that. The other thing that will likely happen is our members will continue to operate, maintain, and potentially replace some of the generators that our members have there to assure that local reliability, to stave off those outages and making sure that the lights stay on in our communities.
So the second part to my question was, you mentioned that the bonds will be going by the wayside in
2035.
35. To me, it seems like you would then issue more bonds to build more solar farms to try to keep up with the 400 or so megawatts that we're not going to have after 2050 then, let's say. So, I mean, is there really going to be a 25% reduction? Or, I mean, just to meet the demand, it seems like you're going to need to issue bonds to create more solar farms.
The way things look right now is there's substantial subsidies that go to taxable entities. We're not a taxable entity. Again, we're a nonprofit tax exempt entity. So all of the renewable resources that we have long-term contracts on today, and the ones we're talking about that the board's going to be discussing next week, is actually under a purchase power agreement. So it's not a debt obligation, but it's a payment obligation.
Okay.
And so again, you don't have it's like saying, I'm going to sign a lease on a home for 5, 10, 20 years. It's a payment obligation, but it's not a debt obligation.
Okay.
And so, but again, from my perspective, I would prefer to own those things. But when you look at the tax credits that those developers are getting,
right,
that helps us get the lower price by being able to do a purchase power agreement as opposed to developing it and building it and owning ourselves. I would, at some point in time, what we'll start to see is some of those things will loosen up with the Treasury, some of those rules will open up, and then we and every other public power utility in the country will be able to develop those ourselves. And at that point in time, it's very likely that the IMEA would then be looking to issue some debt on that.
Right.
I will tell you right out of the gate, at some point in time, in the next 8-9 months, IMEA is looking to refinance the remainder of that debt between 2025 and 2035. So when we come back to you here in the next 8 or 9 months and say, hey, we're looking to refinance this debt, it's not going beyond 2035. I can assure you that. But during that last 10 years, there's a 10-year, what's called a 10-year par call in the bond capabilities. And you might think, well, it doesn't seem like it's a good idea right now to refinance because the interest rates are higher. It's those long interest rates that are higher, that short-term bond rates are still fairly lower. We're seeing that, we potentially could save somewhere around $25 or $30 million over a 10-year period for our members to be able to do that. Like, what happens to that $25 or $30 million? Goes right back to our members in the form of savings and rates and whatever services, whatever the board decides they want to do with that. That's a good question.
Okay, any other questions? Not, thank you very much.
And the only thing I would say is, if you're interested in proceeding with that, we've provided, of course, the contracts for the power sales agreement and the capacity purchase agreement. We've also provided a sample ordinance, with Redbud right at the top, all the letters, and Josh, he's got the packet. He's got the packet there. And so if you decided to do that, it would basically go through the ordinance process. We've got it set up with that. We're happy to answer any questions you've got on that when you go along. Kurt, I know you got a long agenda, so
Okay.
unless there's any additional questions,
All
we're
right.
wrapped up. You can always get a hold of us if you need anything. Happy to work with you all. Really appreciate all the work that Josh has done for our team, and continue to work with you guys as we move forward.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Josh, you got anything else under utility streets?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna move into new business. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the prior month's meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is to request authorization to transfer funds from cash accounts to capital account, electric and gas funds. Does everybody say aye?
Oh, I'm thinking we're at council meeting, I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
It was pretty formal.
All right, wake up over there.
I was typing council minutes.
So, moving on, we had a request to authorize the transfer of funds.
Yeah, annually at the end, every 6 months, when I'm doing Budget Plus, then at the end of the fiscal year, I do a review of each of our utility funds. And with that, it kind of says, where's our cash account, looking at trying to keep 3 months of operating cash on hand, and then whatever excess we may have, in excess of what the 3-month operating cash would be, transferring some of that money then over to the capital plan to fund future projects and things of that sort. So that's what that was. I did work with Liz on these to make sure everything was in place. I would just request authorization of the transfers of $500,000 in the electric fund and $150,000 from the gas fund from those cash accounts to the capital accounts.
Okay, I'd like to make that a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is the American Tower lease amendment proposal.
Yes, this was a lease, was contacted by a guy named David, I can't remember his last name now, with American Tower, asking, we have that current lease on the cell tower behind the utility building. In 21, I think we did a Amendment 3, which extended the lease out. This Amendment 4 would allow for the potential, if they wanted an additional 1,000 square feet, if they needed to expand anything, would also increase our rent payment to us by $150 a month. Looking at the space and everything that's up there, 1,000 square feet is not gonna amount to anything. And it's just an option. It's not that they're doing it, it's just that if that option comes in, and they would then work with us to
So we don't
make
really
sure it's
need to,
feasible.
we don't need to make a motion on anything
Yeah,
with
we
it.
would, yeah, if we could, if you're willing to, and I've had attorney review it. They did update the documents.
Okay.
Because they had questions on, like, I'm trying to have all you guys sign it, but the mayor signs, and then we have the clerk that would attest with the thing. So they have updated the documents accordingly. So basically, it would just be Amendment 4 to the current lease agreement, and then authorized for signatures, it would go to council.
So I make a motion that we approve this tower lease amendment proposal that the attorney has reviewed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is truck number 27 proposal. We got a bid here for a new bucket truck.
Correct, yes, it's in the capital plan, it's the replacement of our smaller bucket truck, but in theory, we're replacing the old 19 whatever big yellow bucket truck that we have down there that we would ultimately turn around and sell. This is competitively bid through Sourcewell, so this is a competitive bid.
Okay.
Total price come in at $199,370. Budget was $200,000.
Okay.
So,
So I make a motion, we accept the proposal from Global for $199,370.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
What kind of time frame you looking at, Josh?
what's that?
What kind of time frame you looking at?
September. Yeah, they originally were thinking August, but it's actually September. We'll probably have it by September.
Pretty bad.
And then I will come back to you for the Gov Deals sale of surplus property.
Okay, next item is proposal from More Asphalt for street sealing. Got a proposal here of $30,050.
Just our street sealing, part of our permanent street program. It is under what the budgeted amount was. We just request authorization for this proposal.
So I make a motion that we approve the proposal for More Asphalt for $30,050 for street sealing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is utility rate studies.
I had brought this up earlier in the year, before the fiscal year, that talking about that with a lot of the new solar stuff coming on. Currently, we don't have a demand charge, and a lot of the places with the new solar stuff are trying to have demand structures built in for certain customers, to pay their fair share, because when you potentially have solar customers putting things onto commercial buildings, that could ultimately, obviously, that's lost revenue without demand charges there, so then the other customers kind of have to, subsidize that, if you will, to pay for that. So basically, I know Freeburg just went through one. I'm just wanting to see if you guys are okay with that, get a quote for a rate study on that. It budgeted $35,000. I know theirs come in at between 30 and 35 for that, just to get a proposal, see what they could bring back on for the electric side. So there's nothing I have to present right now. I just get your take on if we want to
At
entertain
least
the idea.
you're going to at least find out a proposal from them to see what it would cost to do it, and then come
Correct,
back.
and then what they would provide for us.
Okay. All right.
And then on the
So no-
Illinois, if you guys are okay with that, I just bring that back. And then on the Illinois Rural Water, that's we had that done back in 2019. So, and since we're members of Illinois Rural Water Association, there is no cost to us for that, so I would be trying to work with them to see what they can maybe say for review cost, where we're going, what we need to, we have plans, and that could bring back something, for rate, for the water and sewer rates.
Okay. So basically, no action to take on that right now.
No action today, I just wanted to mention those.
Computer for the water department.
Yes, I did budget 2,000. I was trying to get quote, but apparently my Dell representative was out of the office last week when I was trying to get that. I did receive the quote today. I had budgeted $2,000. We would like to get a computer set up in the water plant for them to be able to do their reports, whatever else they have to do. I have 2,000 in there. The quote I did receive today was, I think, like $962. So if I could, since I didn't finalize all the details with that yet, I would like to request authorization to purchase the computer for the water plant through Dell with cost not to exceed $1,200.
Okay, I make a motion, we approve up to $1,200 for a computer for the water department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is Mill Street ditch drainage. Laurie or no?
Hello, thank you all for your time. My name is Lori Reese, and I'll be speaking on behalf of my father and mother, Ronald and Shirley Yankee. And also, I spoke with Tom Westcott, who's married to Mr. Cooper's daughter, Rebecca, because their property is also involved in the ditch issue. I'm sure you all remember the email I sent back on December 14th of 2023, right? I know it's been a while. Josh and I have been working on this for quite a few years. So just as a reminder, if you haven't drove by and seen it, Kurt, you grew up there on Mill Street between Westcott's building, which was the old RC Cola, Hannibal Builders, And now it's Tom and Rebecca's shed, the white shed, and then my parents have a shed, and they did have 3 trailers, now there's only 1. The ditch is in horrible shape, it's eroding, bad. We actually had National Resource Soil and Conservation come out. Gosh, that's probably been a year ago, I think. And they did send 2 recommendations, which was attached to the email. In short, just as a reminder, in case you don't remember my email from well over a year and a half ago, Redbud added curb and guttering along the south side of Mill Street, only on one side. And then they raised the road and ran a 12-inch culvert under Mill Street, and that allowed the water that came down the curb and guttering on the south side of Mill Street to come across and onto our property. And that was done way back in the 80s. I have done a Freedom of Information. I did get the meeting minutes. Some years are missing. It was first brought up in August of 1982. And that's when it was decided, and it actually states Mr. Bergdorf, 8/2 of 1982. Mr. Bergdorf brought up the subject of water and drainage problems on Fillmore, which is perpendicular to Mill Street. And Mr. Brown explained that this has always been a problem there and would be corrected when Mill Street is curved and storm sewer run to the railroad. Mr. Bergdorf also asked about the sidewalk on South Main Street, and Ron Bergdorf replied that he had contacted Illinois Excavators and would try to work it in with the curbing work in wards 1 and 2. It was later approved and completed and was supposed to go out for bids. It says next a proposal on July 5th of 1983 at the meeting. Next, the proposed plans for Fillmore and Mill Street were reviewed and were approved. Mr. Mulholland felt he could have detailed plans ready in about 2 weeks and that he could advertise for bids on July 21st and 28th and have the bids for opening in time for the August 1st meeting. Have some further discussion. Mr. Raffle moved that the engineer be authorized to draw up specs as reviewed in each ward and to advertise for bids to be open for review on August 1st. This was seconded by Dennis Brown and carried unanimously. I do not have, in my Freedom of Information request, I was not provided with August 1st meeting minutes, and then we go on to 1986 to when it was finally completed. So I know there were some questions back when Josh and I were talking back and forth. First, he had said that some people had told him that that's always been a waterway. Well, you grew up a house away from us, a block away. I threw 1,000,001 pitches up against Hannibal Builders concrete building. It was our second base for when we played wiffle ball with the whole neighborhood. We mowed it, we rode our bikes through it. It was always grass. Was there a little bit of a dip? Obviously, my brothers loved to jump it, but it was always grass. Then there was some question that supposedly my father had brought in dirt. So I did have to go through his shed and old pictures, and I actually do have pictures. My dad did not bring in dirt. He did bring in dirt when his shed was put there, not when the railroad was removed. And I do have pictures of that. And I have a cute little picture of my brother to show that it was, and I have more, to show that it has always been grass there up until recently. And also, my father actually spoke with Ray Mitchell, who was the superintendent at that time, and he said that, just like the minutes said, that they would be running a culvert or a ditch or a pipe all the way down to the railroad when they put that culvert under Mill Street to help the water that ran down the south side of the curb and guttering. So I'm asking the city to fix the mistake, the problem they caused. I mean, our ground, and it is a huge national conservation and soil, they were shocked. I mean, they had to walk all the way around. They couldn't even get down there through the field because they did survey it. I did attach that to that email. They did do a survey of the slope. They made 2 recommendations on how to fix it, even how much riprap, rock, tiling, everything that would be needed. It was the USDA engineer. His name is David Weber from Marion, Illinois. said it roughly estimated that this would take approximately 16 tons of RR4 rock riprap with geotextile fabric underneath, and a bit of grading with a backhoe would be required to prepare this area to receive rock. And then, of course, the National Resource, the conservation, they went into great detail because, of course, their concern is the farm ground, where it's also messing up the farm ground behind us that's owned by Willie Rats. So Willie was with me when National Conservation people came out, so.
Sure.
I know
So
I've
there's-
asked Glenn Leonards to appear too, as he was before you. He was one of our aldermen, so he has seen and been aware. I believe he was pretty shocked to see how bad it is now. If you can't go back there and look, because you almost have to go up through the trailer court to see the backside, it is approximately 25, 30 feet wide and about 12 to 14 feet deep. There are balls, kids' toys in there. Of course, now there's trash. And it's just a huge, for our community, it is a huge safety hazard. It's an eyesore, and it's a very big safety hazard. And I did have to speak with Tom because it did affect, because Tom also he does have a flat building. The Hannibal Builders has a flat roof. And he did add some downspouts that are 6 inches wide into the ditch, thinking that that's what it was for. So,
Well, I mean, and I'm not denying anything you said. Nothing has changed in the terrain of the property in there in my 60 years. Water has always flowed that direction, correct? It's always flowed down that way. I mean, that has always been a low spot, that water has always flowed.
off of the Hannibal Builders and,
And
you know,
everybody
off
else,
of ours.
it flows off
Yeah.
everything all the way down there, actually.
But it never got that bad until the city put in the culvert and put in the curb and guttering on the south side.
So that was 40 years ago.
It was, 1980 something.
Sure.
And
What's that?
The water has been directed.
Ronnie,
you can come
you
up.
need to come up to.
No, I understand, but you're saying redirected. I'm just asking because I know the ditch was never a problem until the railroad was taken out. I mean, that's when the erosion really built up heavy back there.
That's not true.
No, because he talked to Ray Mitchell.
There was water that run across the road originally before.
Sure, no,
A little
I,
culvert that was by that street. that
Sure.
goes through that, I don't know what that is. And that's whenever the water run across the road, they actually put barricades across the road because it was dangerous for cars.
sure, no, I agree, I understand.
Okay, and then they moved the big culvert down there, and the reason for that being, all the streets up above us have been curbed and guttered.
Sure.
That directs the water, not letting it go into their yard and absorb. It's being directed into the ditch, and that's being directed down to that area.
Sure.
Our yard.
And it is my property that it's going across. It's not a natural drainage ditch.
Well, I guess that's where, and I understand, but it's been water, there's been natural water run down there as long as I've been around. And always, it's the lowest property, so there's always water. The biggest part of your erosion, though, is where the railroad was. That's where the majority of erosion was. The water went underneath there at one time, but now it doesn't.
No, it never has been. I took care of it for many years. I lived there
I-
56 years.
Sure.
And I took care of it most of the time, and I could mow through it and everything.
Oh, no, I'm talking
But
this.
not no more
I'm
since
not,
they put it in.
I guess I'm sorry, Ron, but I'm saying the railroad property, not your property. I'm referring to the,
The railroad property, taking it out, had nothing to do with the water going down through there. There was a culvert underneath the railroad property, but that was for the water coming from behind the trailer park and from the other way down. It wasn't from the street coming down.
but now that culvert is gone,
That culvert is gone.
okay? Which causes a huge problem.
But if you want to put a culvert back there, you can put a culvert. It's not going to solve the problem. The water is coming across my property.
And,
And it was originally approved. It says in the minutes that curbed and storm sewer run to the railroad. That's what was
sure,
approved.
and I'm gonna be honest,
And
I have
that
not
never
seen
was done.
those minutes back. I have not
Okay.
seen those. So, what I think I'm gonna have to do is we're gonna have to review a few of these things and look back into them and I'll have to have some conversation with Jeff and some things, because I have not seen those things,
Okay.
you know, so.
and I wanted to answer, because
Sure.
I knew there were some questions, so the question was about Dad bringing dirt in. Well,
Sure.
I do have pictures, he
When-
brought in dirt when he built his
It's
shed.
not that, it was more the railroad, because there was a culvert underneath it. When you take the culvert out, that's gonna cause water to back up because it can't get across. That created a
Right, but
problem.
we never had the water like that until the city put in that culvert. They raised Mill Street and they put the culvert under the road, and they admitted they did,
Sure.
and they intended, it says storm sewer run to the railroad.
Okay.
So it was supposed to
Well, like I
come
said,
from the
let's-
culvert all the way down past our property to the railroad property.
Okay.
And that's what we're asking to have fixed. As a community, it is an eyesore and it is a danger again. It's a very huge danger, and we just request that they
Okay.
fix something that was originally supposed to be done but never was. I know there was another comment made that, oh, it's the property owner's responsibility. So I also did a Freedom of Information request because I had a couple properties mentioned to me. One was Country Club Drive. I am aware, as I'm sure you all are, that I did get a Freedom of Information request, and the city did fix Country Club Drive. So, in fact, the city workers, I even got asked for a list. Steve Mertz, the gas leadman, at a rate of pay of $31.51 per hour, put in 26 hours. Clint Crafton, gas journeyman, rate of pay $33.50 per hour, put in 26 hours total. And I have the bill from Construction Supply in the minutes that it was approved by the city council on Monday, November 6th of 2023. Motion made by Councilmember Nevoy, seconded by Councilmember Reinecker. To approve the estimated listed bills, the vote was Reinecker A, Hanaba A, Demond A, Nevoy A, Peel A, Schwarzkopf A. Motion carried. And you bought aluminized 15-inch by 30-foot, 16 galvanized pipe, I guess, and 15-inch band 5C W2.5X, some kind of bolts and nuts. And the city paid for that,
So,
so.
we go on, I mean, so basically, Laura, tonight, if you can provide all that documentation to Josh.
Okay.
And then that we can have further
And I have
discussion about it.
pictures, too, where
Okay.
you pulled the
Yeah, whatever you
culvert.
have, please.
Pull the culvert out.
Because
Yeah.
we're not gonna be able to do anything tonight with it, but at
Yeah.
least we got your
Okay.
information. And then we can put into further discussion and,
Sounds good. We've
See
been
what we can do.
waiting for a while, and I tried to just get documentation. I knew what the questions were, and like I said, I do have pictures showing that it was always grass until.
sure, I'm not, believe me,
Yeah,
I'm not
if you
denying that
remember,
in
it
any
was
way.
second base when
Sure.
we played
Sure.
wiffle ball in the neighborhood, so.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you much.
Thank you for your time.
Anybody else got any other questions? If not, I make a motion to adjourn Public Works at 7:07.
Okay, we'll flip the agendas back over and go to the front, which takes us to Finance Committee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Finance Committee members present, myself, Hannebeck, Reinecker, Schwarzkopf, and Peel, all present. Under old business, we have the facade grant program. In your packets, you have 3 different ideas for the facade program, done up in different ways to take care of paying for the facade program. As a quick synopsis, the Redmond facade program would allow for up to $15,000 in reimbursement of $7,500. If a business owner wants more than one property, or owns more than one property, they may apply for each building owned. The amount budgeted for reimbursement of expenses is $75,000 for fiscal year 2025. In Proposal 1, the funding would be coming from the CD interest that we have been collecting, and those amounts are listed there for the street CD, 2 street CDs, actually, City Hall and Economic Development CDs, and then another street CD. And that total of those, the interest from those CDs would be $60,851. In proposal number 2, earmark up to $75,000 in sales tax revenue to fund the program. This is be done by taking portion of the monthly sales tax received for funding program until reaching the appropriate amount of $75,000. In essence, the program is giving business the opportunity to revitalize their storefronts and bring in more business. And then the third proposal is based on the parks budget of $96,052 is needed from gaming money to help cover this year's expenses. By doing an average of the last 6 months of the gaming money, it is estimated the parks will receive around $132,000 in gaming revenue. This leaves up to $35,948 of gaming revenue that could be used to help fund the program. Under future funding, the notes are there. Option 1, if the city renews any of the current CDs, when they came up for renewal, the interest from those CDs could be used to further the fund program. Option 2, future hotel, motel, sales tax or gaming revenue could be options for funding the program. And then there is a note that the gaming revenue history over the last 5 fiscal years has gone from $57,216 in FY '20 to this past year, $128,472. I guess looking for a motion to, do we want to proceed with this? And then if it is, if we decide to proceed with it, which proposal do we want to go with?
I thought this was moving back to committee to have more discussion and get some information from Waterloo and all that. I mean, this,
This is the committee.
Because it's
well, I know, but I never saw anything from Waterloo's facade program or anything like that
We
yet.
got something from Cole Stencil.
Cole Stencil sent some out.
I don't.
Liz
yeah,
had
he
that in
sent
some of
it,
her
but-
Friday updates.
Yeah, I mean, he sent something, but
Yeah.
it just said that it's worked. I thought we were gonna get information on what they,
They use gaming funds.
yeah, but the amount that they're providing too. I didn't see that in there.
I'm trying to remember, Liz had that in one of her Friday updates.
Yeah.
I don't know if she quoted the exact amounts. I think I might have some information with me, Ben.
I can look on my phone.
The
I got
thing
it
is
on
that
email.
is a little deceptive. They had a cap of $10,000 for quite a few years. So anything historical is not going to be at today's rates. I mean, I've got literally all their numbers for the last couple of years.
That was
I think-
included
I
in the
think
email?
No, I think she just did a recap of it. Here, just like the last few years, 68,000, 29,000, 57,000, 45,000. I've got an incomplete FY '24.
Okay.
They did say it was slow to take off until it got going, and then it really took them a couple of years to get it moving, and then it rolled pretty good. But quite a few businesses, I mean, a number of businesses around Waterloo have taken advantage of this program.
Yeah.
So Ben, you're wanting it to come back through the committee
Well,
and get
no,
some
no,
more
no, I
information?
guess I didn't, I thought there was gonna be some more detailed information than Cole saying it was a good idea and the little bit of information that we got from Liz's email. I'm for it, by the way, I just thought we were gonna get more information on it.
I don't have her Friday with me to reference.
Why don't, if it's in agreement with the committee, why don't we table it? I'll get some more information pulled together and get it out to everyone.
No, I don't think we need to, I just asked the question, that's all. Because like I said, I'm gonna vote yes for it, I think it's great, but I just thought there was more information needed, so.
Is there a recommendation or on which proposal way to pay for the program? Since you have 3 of them in front of you.
Rodney, I can tell you that, I've been in favor of this program all along, as you know. It's just how we were going to fund the thing. And I've kind of changed my mind about the whole program a little bit, it being a grant program. Kurt and I had a conversation last week, and he said, I've been thinking about this, and he said, here's how I look at it. It's no different than what the state does or the federal government does. They provide grants. We just received one for $400,000, That's taxpayers' money that's, going out to communities, not businesses, but, so I've had a little bit of change of heart on it. I think the biggest thing is how we fund it. My suggestion would be to do this as a pilot for 1 year, use the CD money,
Since it's
because
there.
that'll put about the right amount of money in there, and then revisit it next year, because, you know, obviously CDs may not be the same, you know, you may have to find alternate sources of funding at that point. But, you know, that would be my proposal. I don't know what everybody else is thinking.
So under that proposal, it would be proposal number one, using the interest from the CDs
For a one-year period.
for a one-year period. Is that the form of a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay? Do we have a motion and a second? Any further discussion?
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind, proposal 2, if we do this the first year, second year, we will also have to take into account that we will be getting less sales tax revenue then because the new grocery tax
It's going away.
law will go into effect beginning of 26.
26.
Yeah.
Depending on what we do with that. Yeah.
And just,
But right, proposal 2 and 3, you're subject to things that could change.
Yeah.
We fully intend to leave those CDs in the bank.
It's-
This $60,000 is pretty much a given that
Why
that's
I think
coming.
if we do it as a pilot program for 1 year, and let's see what actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we might be totally surprised, they might not have, you know, any interest at all, I don't know.
I think there will be some interest once it's out to the public that it's available. I really do.
Yeah.
And just so you guys know, it was on her June 7th email.
Yeah, I got it.
Thank you.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is for proposal number one, on a one-year pilot program, using the interest from the CDs that are invested in the total of $60,851, and there is a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries, one-year pilot program. Okay, under new business, approval of prior month's meeting minutes from April 15th and May 20th of 2024. Make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes.
Second.
We have motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? CD information, there are no mature CDs. It'll be later in the year before those come due. Financial dashboard, again, it's on there as a monthly item. It is the first month of the new fiscal year, so there's really not a lot there to report at this point. MRTD Go Local Program.
We've got some representatives here, Rodney, that
Okay.
can help out.
Good evening. My name is Mark Berry, and this is Jessica Gentry-Slummy, and we're here this evening representing Monroe Randolph Transit. MRTD has been around since 2005, and we are the one and only public transportation in Monroe and Randolph counties, and we can take anyone, anywhere, for any reason in the two counties. Around 11 months ago, I stood here and presented Go Local to you first. We are very grateful to have Redbud as one of our very first cities to jump on board for the Fair Sponsorship Program. And with that, I would like to present Mayor Hallervall
Oh,
with her certificate for the local participation.
thank you.
And also, since then, we've increased, go that way with them, or go this way. Got some more literature out that was not available last time I was here. So to go over Go Local again. Go Local is a fair sponsorship program based on $1 per capita based off the 2020 census. The main goal for Go Local, what it's based on is trips that start and finish in Redbud city limits are half-price $3 rides. And the main goal of it is we want to try to keep your citizens local, to shop local, doctor local, entertain local, whatever they can use to try to stay here instead of traveling elsewhere for those needs. Some of the places that we've found that residents went to here in Redbud, they went to the hospital, Comwell, IGA, Dollar General, Tequilas, Subway, YMCA, dialysis in the elementary school. That was just a handful of the trips that they took that qualified for the Go Local. Also, one of the really cool things that we've seen is Redbud right now makes up 20. We're looking at, for fiscal year 24, we're going to be just shy, I think, of 16,000 trips. Redbud trips that involve Redbud are 23% of our total. right around, like, it's gonna be right around 3,300 of our 16,000 trips involve Redbud. So, I mean, that's something to very be proud of. I mean, public transportation is very much alive and well here in Redbud. In fact, it's, the only one closest to it is Waterloo. Waterloo's at 2,700, almost 2,800. So, and since then, we've built some really good relationships with the hospital here. DaVita, we've been reaching out to them, trying to figure out how, you know, they can better utilize us for moving people around. Garden Place, I've had really good conversations with them on how we can help them. I know you guys have the packet that had the statistics on it. We did see just a slight decline from fiscal year 23 to 24. The 24 is gonna be our baseline because the 23 Go Local wasn't in progress yet. But we do know that we lost, I shouldn't say lost, but there was a few dialysis patients left, which you can only imagine that's, you're looking at 12 trips a week for, you know, however many, a very extended period of time. But we're very, very hopeful. We've got some new studies coming out for transportation in the two counties, and we think we can get a better idea of, you know, how we can better target some of those areas.
So Mark, it looks like then for FY '25, Go Local Fair sponsorship, and I'm assuming that comes from the city?
That's
Is that correct? You're estimating it, or is this an estimate, or is it an actual?
That's the actual number. It's the exact same as last year. It's just your 2020 census. It's $1 per capita.
So the,
Last year, you did come in 1 month into us
So we-
having the program live. So we prorated that rate, so that's why it's gonna look a little different from last year to this year.
so sponsorship, the fee is $3,684.
Correct.
Is that correct?
And that gives the residents a $3, half price, $3 rides for anything that takes place within city limits.
Do we have a motion?
You can make it.
It looks better if I'm not the one making all the motions.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Make a motion to go ahead with the fee.
Go ahead.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to Go Local Fair sponsorship for a dollar amount of $3,684. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Thank you all very much. We look forward to working hard to get more rides. Would you mind if I left a flyer and some more brochures to go bring with us?
We can-
Downstairs.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is Energy Transition Community Grant Application.
Yes, thank you. I believe we do have some people who are in the audience as well, other stakeholders of our community who are in favor of utilizing these grant funds to go towards the building infrastructure to our Redbud Business Park. So we're going to continue working on that application. We're in progress of it right now, and the deadline is in July, so we've got a little bit of time. But just opening the comments for funding, you know, for those that support or are in favor of it. We wanted to invite them to the meeting. You don't have to talk if you don't want to, but we appreciate you taking your time to come and show your support.
I think last year's amount was 87,000-ish, and the one we're applying for is 68,000-ish. Am I remembering that right?
I think it was flip-flopped. Was last year the 68?
Last year was higher.
Okay.
And
So
it
then
dropped
next year, correct.
significantly from year to, they said expect a slight increase, and there was a pretty good drop this year, which means more people applied, or more businesses applied, however it was, so. But we'll be applying for that.
So that's ongoing through the application process,
Yes.
correct?
And this one, you'll keep seeing this come back year after year. We'll apply each year up through the closing of Baldwin Power Plant, and then we're allowed to apply 6 more years into the future after the plant closes. So we'll keep talking about this for quite a few years.
Okay, any public comments or anything for the good of the city? If not, we'll adjourn finance at 7:25.
Okay, next up is Personnel Committee.
All right, I call Personnel Committee to order at 7:25. Myself, Peel, Dojan, Giebert, and Reinecker are here. Under old business, I have none. Under new business, I make the motion to approve the prior month's meeting minutes from May 20th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, passed. Next up, we have the IML conference. Most of you guys know, we go to the IML conference every year up in Chicago. It's pretty, it's a good resource for us, all the different seminars, things like that. Looks like, again, if anybody is wanting to go, I'd like to make a motion for department heads and city council members for costs to go to the IML conference.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, opposed, motion passes. I got a resignation from Police Department from Chris Felix. Make a motion that we accept this resignation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, passed. Next up, we got another resignation from the Police Department, Rusty Sellers. Make a motion, we accept this resignation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, pass. Next up, department heads review. I move that we convene an executive session under section 5 ILCS 120/2 of the Open Meetings Act for discussion of personnel matters.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Go executive session.
7:25.
Awesome. This time you.
Yeah.
Rusty's at work. He got a job as a security analyst. Chris Felix is going to school full time and get a job as a security analyst. Hurt sometimes. Hard to tell. Go back to 06. That one. They pull your shoulder down, blood flow down there. This is be my last year bad. I'm over 6 years. I was 50 years old. Why? I almost died last, or, yeah, November. That's when I was out of hospital. It just hurt. Remission? Man, those people, they were all over me, they were taking care of me. I was an easy patient. I was like, yeah, no problem with you. They kept wanting to do it hard again. They kept trying to schedule it, so I didn't get nothing in. The next day, they said, oh, we're gonna do this morning. I did. We're gonna do this afternoon. I did. Got that evening, I said, you guys are getting these. All right, so I didn't die. All right, I haven't eaten in 2 days. And eventually they were like, Doctor decided he's not gonna do the hurt cat. You're doing it. I couldn't have eaten this whole time. They need me, right? But all they didn't have is, right? And like a ham sandwich. Are you kidding me? Or to get me some salt.
St. Elizabeth. I can't back and forth because it's a heart issue. So they give me boiled chicken and, you know what I mean? Flavorless. Whatever. And they're good for a reason. This one quick. You can have this done by now. Set here, open and grab it and anchor through, anchor back down on the corner. So, if I can't find a tenant, you might come up and cut all the way up. Here, so I don't know what it is. I'm hoping I just did that little cut. After 12 or 4 weeks, it's probably partially healed, so it's kind of loose. I don't know. I can see the tenant in my crook of my elbow the whole time. It's sitting there. Oh, I can't imagine that rupture. Well, one guy said that middle muscle, if that's one rupture, there's like, the doc said, I can't fix that, that's gonna be muscle to muscle. So, yeah, the doc said that, the guy just telling me about this, I don't know why, basically, so I can't fix that. It should be, but the rip the other muscle.
Oh, go ahead. You gotta be somewhere by dark.
Well,
Hey Jeff, one thing, I'm gonna need you at that meeting next Wednesday. You do? Yeah. Everyone's.
What do I need to prepare for?
She just gave me her presentation, and I figure you know a little bit about what's going on over there. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Kristen's giving her presentation.
We good? Yep. Okay. We'll go back in session at 7:33. All right, after executive session, I make a motion that we move to approve a salary increase of $2.40 per hour for the police chief and city superintendent effective the next full pay period.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Any public comments, anything for the good of the city? Hearing none, I'll close personnel at 7:33.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Public Health and Safety Committee.
I'll call the Public Health and Safety at 7:34. Myself, Reiniger, Giebert, Neboy, and Dojan are all present. We have no old business. Under new business, approval of April 15th, 2024, and May 20th, 24 minutes. I'll make that a motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Departmental activity report, you've all got a copy of it. Anybody got any questions for John? Now we'll move on. Next is authorization to purchase whatever they are. Armored vests.
Ballistic vests.
Bulletproof vest. John, I think we're at the lifespan of our current ones, is that correct?
Correct, they usually go about 5 years.
5 years, is that what it is? So they need to be replaced, and it's actually a two-part vest. You may want to explain it a little bit, John.
So the vest normally comes with an under carrier that you wear underneath your uniform. The guys typically wear it on the outside with the molly, that's what the 218 is. That way they can attach a lot of their gear to the vest rather than hanging on their hips. All that stuff hanging on their hips typically gives you back problems and different things, so it's better when they hang it on the vest. They'll put their magazines and flashlights and everything on the vest, and that's what they prefer to have anyway.
Okay. And you have budgeted for these, correct?
Yes,
You don't have a total number, do you?
I do not have, it's
Just under
about
$6,900.
$1,000 a
It's
piece.
just under 6,900.
69, so 7, not to exceed 7.
Perfect.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we order new bulletproof vests for the officers, not to exceed $7,000.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. The next is rapid deployment shields. John, you want to speak on them a little bit?
So basically, these are ballistic shields. We've had a couple of occasions where we've had to go in and these shields will, it almost looks like a Roman shield. It goes from neck to toe, and it will stop a rifle round if somebody would fire it at you, or shotgun or whatever. But you would just, like I said, go in just like best I can say is like a Roman shield. They're very lightweight, but they can stop bullets. So that's kind of why we're looking at it. For dynamic entries, that sort of thing, if we had to go in.
The vests that we just approved, do they have plate carriers for those too?
No, those are.
Do we have plates?
Do we have plates?
Yeah, do they, I mean, we're getting the shield. I mean, I don't know if our guys do have the,
I would get them if they wanted them. Nobody's ever requested them. I've got one myself. It's so dang heavy, it's hard to. to
but if you know
carry.
you're going into
So I
something
just
where you're
keep
gonna
it-
be putting
I
on
keep it in.
this,
Correct.
I would think that they'd want that extra coverage too.
Okay,
I mean, if you're going to that environment, I would think that we'd want that option.
I can look it in and bring it back.
What are we talking about now?
Plate carriers, it's kind of like a bulletproof vest, but instead of the material, it has a hard plate. It's like either a ceramic or a steel plate that will stop a rifle round.
It's for a higher velocity round.
It's very heavy.
And my opinion, if we're going to where we need something like this because we're going into that situation, I would think that we would want to have the gear to go with it.
Hey, what kind of money you think you're talking? Any idea?
Right here.
It's as much as those, no,
It's not these?
no.
No.
Oh,
I don't
sorry.
think so.
I mean, I'm not saying we
It'd
gotta
be
get them
much
now,
That's a
but
carrier.
we should prepare.
It would be as much as a bulletproof vest.
As
Ballistic
much?
plate, yeah.
So it's
If
just,
they'd want one.
it's just a different type of vest, is that what you're saying?
Yes,
It's an addition.
It's extremely heavy and it's for.
It's an
a-
addition.
If we go with the not to exceed, would we do 7,000?
Yeah.
Will that cover it?
Okay. I get it done.
If that's what, I guess it's up to the officers what they
It
want.
is.
kinda.
I know some of them won't want it. Some of them do. I know at least two of them that absolutely want it.
Well, is that for
so-
daily wear or only when you're going, when you know you're going into a
That'd be for
situation?
more of a dynamic entry.
So they would need
It would not
two
be-
vests in
yes,
essence
It would not
then?
be something that you would normally wear. It'd be something to be in the trunk and you'd throw on.
So go with the 7,000. If that's not enough, we'll have to put it on a council agenda for
Okay. sounds
extra.
good.
Yeah.
Approval. Okay. Now, getting back to these, have you budgeted for these?
These would go under equipment. I budgeted quite a bit in my equipment item.
Okay. Is there a lifespan on these things?
It's,
I mean, are you looking at replacing these every 5 years too, or are you?
I forgot to ask.
And the other question I had, do you have any of your special funds that we could utilize to pay for these? I know you get some of the, I don't know what different
We have
funds.
the drug fund
Yeah.
that comes in. I can check there.
Is there enough money? Why don't you check into those things and then we'll just put it on the council agenda?
100%.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay. That takes care of that. That public comments, anything for good of the city?
I think we have someone here for that.
Thank you. I'm Dave Krause. I know most of you, but you guys sure get a lot of complaints and requests for people to spend money, don't you? That's not what this is going to be. I'd like to read this for you. Just take a minute of your time, if you would, please. On Monday, June the 3rd, 2024, at 1 a.m., we had an occasion to request assistance from the Red Bud Police Department. Officer Mike Collins responded to the call and handled the situation in a fair and impartial manner. He performed in an admirable way to assist in the disturbance. I spoke with Officers Chris Hewitt, Nick Reinhardt during the day as to how best respond to the incident. Later that evening at 7:25 p.m., I requested assistance to visit the location for an inspection for possession of the property. Officer Nick Reinhardt responded to the call, as well as Officer Carl Williams, and Mike Collins had helped us the night before. Both officers performed in a superbly admirable manner with regard for all involved. My family would like to thank the Red Bud Police Department and Animal Control for the way they responded to the call. We will especially like to thank Officer Nick Reinhardt for the way he responded and his quick action without regard for his personal safety. We would like for you to consider his actions on that call and ask that you acknowledge him for his exceptional performance of his duties. We will forever be grateful to him and the entire Red Bud Police Department. Thank you for your consideration, Dave Krause, Jamie Krause, and Sean Leonards. Just like to tell you how proud I am of the Red Bud Police Department, and I hope you are all too.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. We'll make
We
sure we
will.
pass that along because we don't get favorable comments very often.
Dave, you might also want to give a copy to the office so they can put that in their personnel file. Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No. I adjourn Public Health and Safety at 7:42.
Okay, next up is Cultural Committee.
I call the Cultural Committee to order at 7:42. Myself, Demond, Reinecker, Giebert, and Dojan are all present. No old business. First part of new business, I'd like to make a motion to approve the prior month's meeting minutes from April 15th and May 20th, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Second order of business, the First Pentecostal Church of Red Bud requests to hand out donuts at the four-way stop on June 22nd from 1 to 3 p.m. pending their certificate of liability insurance.
I called and left a message today, just asking, saying, hey, this is on the agenda for tonight. We haven't received anything. I didn't receive a call back. So I can't confirm that we actually have that
Okay, and I
available to
think in
us.
the meantime, Barb may have gotten a call and we didn't get past to you. I believe
Oh.
they've rescinded this, is my understanding. so-
Okay, I wasn't aware of that,
Okay.
so.
So I think we
Okay.
can just skip
Strike
over that one, yeah.
No action.
No action.
No action. The third item is the Chamber of Commerce lease update. It expired on December 31st, 2023. Do you just want me to, do I just mention that we're gonna extend their lease, or?
Basically, and then just a motion to extend it.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to extend the Chamber of Commerce's lease, is it
Through December 31st, 2025.
till December 31st of 2025?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next item is there's a guideline in all of our packets for the mural it's a draft of the mural guidelines. So there's a proposal for a mural on the north wall of the 1855 building. Everybody was handed a copy of it before the meeting. I guess, is there any discussion on it? I mean,
Then we kind of got two things going on.
okay,
We got the mural guidelines, that's kind of a standalone.
okay,
We based that, Jill and I worked quite a bit on that, we based that off of what Waterloo does, and they've been pretty successful in Waterloo. There is no cost for it, applications would be sent to me, if the application's good, I would forward it to zoning committee, and it would be approved at committee level, it would not go to council.
okay.
We just wondered what your thoughts would be on that. If you're good with that, you know, we could entertain a motion to accept it and pass it to council. If we want to kick it down the road, we can kick it down the road. The mural that I passed out, it's on the west side of Alan Meese building there. That is something that has been fundraised by the city foundation. Jerry Hannibud is the chair of that. And they are proposing to have this mural paid for and put up.
Okay.
So it's two things.
So can the second thing even happen before the first is approved?
Well, that's why I wanted to put, since we don't have any rules in place, that's why I wanted to run this by council. In the future, they would fill the forms out and it would go to zoning committee. But he's wanting a yes or no on this. They're wanting to get the artist booked, and I think they're gonna start working on it in August. That's how far out these people are booked.
So then we should probably vote on the mural first to get it grandfathered in before the draft of the guidelines, right?
Well, they're two independent things, because we don't have guidelines yet.
Okay?
Because the guidelines then wouldn't be approved until council meeting.
You can move the
We can-
guidelines forward with a vote.
Yeah, I just didn't know if
Right.
then they needed to go through then planning and all this other stuff also, and that would then kick this down the road if we don't vote for this, approve this mural first and then approve the guidelines.
However you guys want to do it, that's.
I think we should at least, well, I mean, at least put it up.
Why are we involved with the mural on private property with non-city money? I mean, we need to have regulations in place so people can't put up anything, I understand that, but it's not ours. I don't know what else to say.
The discussion that came up, because I'm on the foundation, is they're afraid with the sidewalk and things like that, with the artists working on there, that the sidewalk might have to be put scaffolding or a lift or something like that, and afraid that people walking on there have to close the sidewalk, so they're trying to get approval from the city if there's any kind of issue with that in the meantime.
I mean, I think the idea is to kind of control what people are painting on their buildings.
No, and
Even though they're
I'm with
private,
you, I
they're
just don't
paying
know
for it.
how far our
Well, it's just
role
like a
goes.
sign. It's no different than a sign. Somebody hang on a sign on it, but you're painting something on. You want to somewhat
So we
control that
need
'cause
to
you-
get our
so-
stipulations before we can.
Just gives you some,
Right.
I'm good with that.
yeah, you can
Yes.
do it, but here's what you got to.
Right.
Right.
And since and the way I'm thinking is, since this is the first one that has now created our guidelines, since we don't have guidelines, they were doing the right thing, or they were doing a good thing and asking us, so we should approve or deny the first one, and then approve or deny the guidelines. Then everything after this one will have to follow a certain guideline, since we don't have guidelines in right now. That's the way I think it should go.
There's more in the works coming, because they just did a fundraiser the other day, and we raised a significant amount of money for future murals in town, so. That's why.
And Kyle, some of the other problems that Jeff has encountered firsthand is some of these murals become advertising.
Oh, 100%.
And
No, I agree.
maybe you're
I-
slightly
we
not
need
in
to
the
get ahead of
spirit
it.
of what we'd like things in Redwood to look like.
Right. So I guess then, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the proposed mural on the north wall of,
West.
I'm sorry. It says north wall, so it's,
It should say west.
okay, west wall of the 1855 building. Oh, yeah, it is, yeah.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries.
I'm gonna
Oh,
abstain.
You're gonna abstain?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, since I'm on the foundation.
Do I need to say anything? Okay. All right. So the second part of the mural is there's a draft of guidelines that I'd like to present and make a motion that we accept these guidelines.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
So will these just be made into an ordinance then? Will this have to be an ordinance?
I don't know, can we just run these as guidelines, at least to start?
So why wouldn't we do them as an ordinance like we do, like what we do for signs, like Kirk brought up that, every business has to meet a certain.
We could, I mean, this is very new. Is this the exact version we want, or are we gonna learn as we go here a little
Correct.
bit? This is kind of new territory we're stepping
Okay.
in. I don't know if that,
Okay, well then, yeah.
unless you wanna go ahead and ordinance it immediately.
No, I like that then.
There's
Do the
no-
guidelines.
There's no city money involved, so
There isn't in a sign either.
that's very true.
Right.
Who may get an ordinance, or will, because we'll pay the lawyer.
Yeah, could we test drive this for like,
I appreciate that.
could we test this maybe for 6 months and then say 6 months from now, we'll revisit it as an ordinance once we understand?
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Do I need to say all that? Add that to it or not? Okay. And the last, nope, the second to last thing I have, request from St. Peter UCC to close, what is it here? It said Randolph Street at the corner of Madison after 5 PM on Friday, July 19th for their Vacation Bible School. They've already spoke with Raceline. It doesn't say if Raceline's okay with it. They just said that they contacted them. So I'd like to make a motion, we accept the St. Peter UCC road closure.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. One last thing, Jill, I'd like to throw this to you about the website update.
Yes, so with the website, since I started, Susan's done a really good job of connecting me with just regional, local economic development people. And the one thing that they keep saying to me over and over and over again is you need to be thinking about how you're gonna be marketing these lots whenever you get them shovel-ready for the Redbud Business Park. So the thing that they always keep coming back to is you're gonna wanna have a dedicated page on your website. You're gonna wanna make sure that the ease and accessibility of finding whatever forms that you're gonna have businesses fill out and complete are something that's going to be easily findable on your website and also easy to access, maintain, get submitted without having to like go through the additional unnecessary steps. Everybody wants a form online to be able to just fill it out. In order to do that, I've been looking at the website that we currently have. It is a Weebly site, which I'm sure all of you are kind of somewhat familiar with Weebly. It's been around for a long time. We have like a extended version that allows us to do some things on it. Christy, God bless her, she has really tried to clean up the website and make it a little bit more uniform. But it's kind of become a beast that we can no longer maintain easily. I think in order to really advertise Redbud, get Redbud kind of as a unified, have a unified logo for all of the forms. We've already been working on creating these forms, getting them online, making them PDF fillable, easy access, whatnot. But then they get to our website and it's kind of messy and there's a lot of information that has to go on a city site. And so I think in order to have it all organized professionally would be the best route to go for the city. I think that, in talking with some marketing people, they're like, a website should be reevaluated every 3 to 5 years. And I don't believe that ours has really been fully evaluated to that extent. I think it's great and it served its purpose, but I think we're just getting to the age, especially for businesses looking to come here, future homeowners wanting to come to and figure out what Redbud is all about. What does it look like? What is it, I know if you were able to see the new tourism guide for Redbud, how fantastic that looks and how good it makes Redbud look. I'd like to do that on our website as well. So that's kind of where we're at.
Are you gonna try and go ahead and get proposals for doing that?
Yeah, I've already talked to 2 different providers, and they've kind of given me some rough numbers on what they could propose. I can get more if, I'd like to make sure that we get everybody local who's here. I've already talked to 618 Creative. The other person is just kind of a guy that cold called us, says, hey, I do municipality websites. I can get your ordinances all, lined up. And then that kind of also domino effects into your ordinances. And I know there was new ordinances passed. Getting them posted accurately and professionally is a big thing as well. That is necessary for another vendor, apparently, for the codification program and subcodifications. So it all kind of dominoes together, and it all, if you're doing one, it almost makes sense, in my mind at least, to be able to redo all of that at the same time.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So I don't need to make a motion or anything.
No,
It's
it's just
information.
Just
right?
proposing the idea.
Okay.
Do you guys have any other thoughts about, if you do in the future, I know we're getting late, let me know if I should contact somebody that you know of, a marketing firm, website, hosting, that kind of stuff, let me know.
I guess we would be looking for local firms or relatively local firms if possible to work with.
Yes.
So then, would we just have Joe come up with a few names for the next city council meeting? To be able to
Well, we could
approve to
start
move this
gathering,
forward?
formal proposals and bring
Okay.
those to you.
Yeah.
Is everybody on board with the idea, is all this was this evening.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Any public comments, anything for the good of the city? Yes?
My name's Lynetta Adams, and I'm a local business owner. I have a counseling office down the street at 505 South Main. And so I rent from Willie Uffelman, and he gave me permission to have a mural painted on the front and the side of the building. So that's why I'm here. I sat here this whole time to hear this. I learned a lot from how well you all run it. But you do a good job, and 618 Creative is good. I've talked to them, by the way. Yeah, they're really good. But I just want to be a part of the art community here in Redbud. My first career, I was an art teacher, middle school art teacher, so I have a passion for that, and I'd like to be part of allowing that. And Willie Ufferman's fine, and I have an artist already picked out, so it's going to be similar to the picture that I just saw for what Alan is proposing. So it'll be another redbud tree with the wind blowing. So hopefully we can get the guidelines in place so I can have that artist work on that hopefully this summer. And that's really all I had to say on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We should have that ready for you. I still have your email. We should have that ready for you at our next council meeting in July, and I will forward you the approved things.
All right. I will close the cultural committee at 7:56 PM.
Okay, thank you. Next up is zoning committee.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll call the zoning committee meeting to order at 7:57. Myself, Giebert, Schwarzkopf, Demond, and Neboy all present. The first item in old business is the lot pricing worksheet for the Redbud Business Park. I know, Rodney, you were going to help out with that with Jeff. I don't know if you have anything prepared for
He
tonight.
sent me the stuff a couple days ago, and he and I talked before the meeting. You're just gonna table it for tonight, Jeff?
I think so. I want to be able to get something out to all you guys. Josh did tell me, we were at $92,000 an acre last month when I did my analysis, and Josh said to kick that up 25% for his utility costs, which puts us at about $95,000 as a mean for an acre price, which would get us to the break even. I think what Rodney and I still need to discuss is I identified 3 different types of lots. We have our highway frontage, then we have 2 extra cul-de-sac lots, which are business lots, and then we have 2 industrial lots. How are we gonna rate those? I had an example of 105 for the highway, 95 for the 2 cul-de-sac lots, and 80,000 for the industrial lots. That's the kind of thing we still kind of need to hash out, I think. But, yeah, I would say let's table this till next month, please.
Okay. All right, thank you. On to new business, I'll make a motion to approve prior month's meeting minutes of May 20th, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any public comments or anything for the good of the city? Hearing none, I will adjourn the zoning committee at 7:58.
Okay, thank you. Next up and last up for the evening is recreational facilities.
Thank you, Mayor. Myself, Hannibal, Nevoy, Peel, and Demond are all present. I'll call to order at 7:59. We have no old business under new business. I'll make the motion to approve department's meeting minutes for May 20th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The second item is a replacement lawnmower. There's a quote in here from John Deere. Josh, do you just need a,
Yes, but that would include the trade-in of the existing mower too, so it'd be a balance of $13,812.24. We just request authorization to purchase the replacement lawnmower, and that's for the parks.
okay, I'll make that a motion as presented in the packet.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item is a sports complex lighting upgrade project. Josh has a quote in here. I know this is something we did on Diamond 2 a few years ago, and
Yeah, correct. And then just trying to, it's kind of getting to one of them things where the energy efficiency funds that we have in place now, we're getting to where we're in one of them use it or lose it type of years again. I did have a conversation with Rod Welpley, who does our energy efficiency program through IMEA. Typically, this type of project would be eligible for like I think it's $1.05 per watt saved. I can make a formal request as a board member that I want to do 75% of project cost and utilize that money. With that, we have approximately 40,000, I don't know if I wrote it down here. We have like $40-some thousand in our actual energy efficiency program, and then they actually have a one for electric vehicle charging stations and other stuff that's like another 10,000 and some change. So we can actually transfer money from that, basically like transfer cash and capital here between the energy efficiency programs, and it would still leave money, because the fire department has talked about maybe upgrading some lighting to where we can get an application, and if they want to upgrade some lights, we can do some energy savings figures there. Looking at kind of labor costs, what we had involved with the last time, looking at my cost, the cost of the lights did go up. Total cost of project right now is $63,653. Utilizing 75% of project cost, we could get back potentially $47,739.84 in energy efficiency money. Please note that this also does save approximately about $1,300 per year in energy costs, switching from the high-pressure sodium lights over to the LEDs. And then that would leave an estimated total project cost of about $15,900.
okay. So I would make that a motion to go to council as presented. Do you need a not to exceed, or is this good?
I mean, utilize the project using 75%. I mean, you can't really say that that's gonna be 15, it's just
Right.
what labor cost, if it ends up coming in to where we do 22 hours, it's just my estimate of what we had, so.
Okay,
I mean, if you wanted to do a not to exceed 70 total estimated project cost before energy efficiency funds, that'll cover it.
okay. I'll make the motion not to exceed 70,000 in total estimated project cost as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next is the YMCA pool report.
You skipped one.
Oh, no, I've got you. There's a quote in here from Playground Mulch. I don't know if anyone is familiar, but the mulch out at the RBA is all that black tire chip from the grade school years ago, and it's just awful. So when the kids play on it, they look like a coal miner from the 30s. So I would like to I'd like a not to exceed 2,300, but I want to see if Jill can reach out and possibly find somebody else that can haul from St. Louis Compost, because we might have some cost savings. So I'll make the proposal not to exceed 2,300 for this, for buying playground mulch, and then we'll see if we use Davey at council.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. YMCA pool report. Oh, I also want to note that the sports complex, they said that, they'd have their workers get volunteer labor and all that. So we'll just need a little bit of help from Josh, but they should take care of most of it. YMCA pool reports in here of the summary of the Redwood pool operations. I don't know if anybody met with them, but
Oh, we've been meeting.
I was gonna say,
They're set up pretty good now. And, they're just waiting to get more sales in for parties, season passes, et cetera.
okay. And then the next item would be public comments. Anything for the good of the order? Hearing none, I will conclude at 8:04.
Okay, thank you all. That concludes a long evening, but we got a lot of work done, so thank you much.